Yeah, it's an incredibly fortunate firm to be able to be part of so many projects that have shaped Topeka. I mean, fixing up the building up on Vinegar Hill and Federal Home Loan Bank to Advisors Excel's offices with their Gage campus and even the things AIM did. I still feel that connection to all these cool aspects that Topeka is developing, just in a different way.
Don Heiland, Director of Finance at SDG, an architecture firm. Is that fair to say?
SDG Architecture plus Interiors.
Cool. Come on.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's great. So I'm happy to just share with you my thoughts, I guess, on Topeka and what has brought me here.
That's great. Yeah. Maybe, man, just give us your background. So we met kind of through a friend who's an architect at your company you just started working at pretty recently.
Yeah.
But you have quite the background working at different organizations, I'll just say loosely, who have been heavily invested in downtown Topeka, different facets of making Topeka a better place. Yeah. So maybe just give us like a quick overview. What have you been involved in Topeka?
What are you still involved in?
Yeah, so I was locally grown here. I went to Washburn Rural and then went to Washburn University after that. Got my undergraduate in accounting and then got my master's in business administration. Nothing but high respects for Washburn. It was a great education and I couldn't be more thankful for it.
There you go.
And met a lot of great people there too.
Should have Washburn pay us for this episode.
Right, sponsored. Yeah. But anyways, then after that, while I was still in school, I had gotten an internship at Hill's Pet Nutrition downtown when, they were still headquartered here.
Okay.
And I was working in global supply chain for Seth Wagner, who ended up being he's going to be probably my biggest mentor I ever had in my life. But we were working in there and, got to learn a lot about how big businesses run. He had worked there for, decade or more than that, actually. But then what happened was he was roommates with Cody Foster with Advisors Excel back in college. And there was one spring day where Cody called him up, I guess, and said, hey, I've got some big ideas that I want to do, but I got to run Advisors Excel, so I need somebody to start a company for me. And so then, Seth had parted ways with Hills. I got a call days later saying, oh, yeah, Cody's got really big plans and a lot going on. I need some help. Yeah. And so then I came along. And so then
did Hills just get gutted when he started that company?
No. But it was just two of us. And, there were so many people working down there at that point. And I know it's diminished quite a bit, but and then they eventually moved their offices to KC. But anyways, so then we were on a crazy 10-year ride with AIM, and I'm sure we'll talk about plenty of that. But
is AIM what was started out of that?
Yeah. So AIM was a company that held some equity in just a few kind of venture capital investments of Cody's. And then it was, so let's get that all sorted out. And then it got into real estate. Then it got into restaurants and hotels. And it got into a bunch of stuff. So, and then after 10 years of that, I kind of finally felt ready for, a new challenge. And so I had always had contact with Greg Schwert over at SDG Architecture Interiors. And I reached out to him and said, hey, I think I'm ready to try something new. And so made that switch about 2 months ago, and that's where I am now. So
cool.
Anyways.
That's wild.
AIM Strategies, what is AIM Strategies?
So basically, Cody was wanting to invest in the community. You've probably heard from other people that the dude just has a heart of gold as far as wanting to pour back into Topeka.
Right.
And so he had the AIM 5 Foundation, which was his kind of nonprofit arm. But then it was like, okay, well, there's this real estate development and other things he wanted to do. So he had AIM Strategies for managing that. And so when we had first started, like I said, it held some just small companies, held a luxury hat manufacturer in Southern California called Mellon, along with some like private insurance, along with some construction and even an Irish vodka, many weird, I mean, not weird, but it was very
Irish
diverse.
vodka.
It was very diverse. And so anyways, but eventually it was like, hey, I think we can do more things in Topeka that we can have better control of. And then that's when it went into buying up a bunch of the properties that went up for sale on Kansas Avenue many years ago. That would have been, mostly between 15 and 18, I think, when most of that acquisition happened. And then after that, it was, okay, well, let's get things going on in these buildings rather than just being vacant storefronts.
Right.
Making downtown look like,
wow. So what are some of the things downtown that AIM was behind?
So the Cyrus Hotel was the very first thing that was a definitive picture in Cody's mind, you could say. It was that, the town didn't have a nice boutique hotel. A lot of the properties around here were just aging, or, if there was somebody from advisors that he wanted to bring into town, he didn't want to have to be looking at Lawrence and Kansas City to get a good hotel for somebody.
Sure.
And it was, I want to have something Topeka could be proud of. And so then that's when that started. And so, there was many, many months of planning and figuring out how to navigate the Landmarks Commission downtown, because it is a historic district. And how do you put an 8-story kind of skyscraper down there and abide by all that still? So there was tons of challenges in getting that to fit. But then while that was being built, because it was such a large project, it was like, well, probably needs to be some restaurants and things down there too. So then while that was being built, we were working on getting the Pennant open.
Yeah.
And so the Pennant happened during the construction of the Cyrus.
I was going to say, I thought the Pennant was first, but that might have just been,
It started after the Cyrus started, but it got finished first just because.
Gotcha.
Just
It's
didn't
not
need
8 stories.
Yeah, it's not 8 stories. What's the difference between, because I've heard Cody wanted his a boutique hotel down there that we could have his advisors in. What's a boutique hotel versus just a nice hotel that you would stay at?
Right. Yeah. So boutique would technically mean it doesn't have a flag. So by flag, I mean, Marriott or Hilton, those kinds of, that span the country. And so this one wasn't constrained like a lot of those properties are, because it's often a kind of cookie cutter formula. Right.
Right.
And
it's
so
not part of a chain.
Mm-hmm. And so it's not like there was somebody saying, oh no, you have to have this many rooms, or your dining space has to be this many square feet. We had that freedom to build whatever we wanted.
So essentially it's not a franchise.
Not a franchise.
Gotcha.
Now I will say though, after we got a few years into this, it had become quite apparent that it's very tough to drive revenue when you're not attached to one of those chains, because they pour so much marketing dollars into the industry and advertising on a whole. Plus, I mean, you probably know people that are like, I have my Marriott points. It's all I do because I want to accumulate my points.
Right.
And so then here a couple of years ago, we actually did move it over to become a Marriott property.
Oh,
Gotcha.
really?
Yeah. Gotcha. So Marriott was making some, they were just looking at the market as a whole, and they realized, and you guys can tell me what you think, but younger travelers kind of want really unique experiences.
Yeah.
You kind of don't, you don't travel to San Diego and like, let's eat at Burger King. You want to go to a local place that has a local flavor and is something you can bring home and tell people
when
about.
I'm in New York, I want to have Sbarros, like the classic New York pizza.
It's funny you make that joke. I've actually done that. I went to New York and had Sbarros.
Cool. So the Pennant was completed first, but started second.
Yep.
And then did they venture on beyond that?
Yeah, and then after that, we went right into building Iron Rail Brewing down there. And then as soon as that was done, we were kind of then trying to get our feet kind of underneath us, because we weren't super experienced restaurateurs at that point. So then we kind of stabilized those operations. Then you got hit by COVID, which was just, I would never wish that upon my worst enemy, is managing a restaurant or a hotel through COVID.
Man.
But once we got through that, then it was, hey, we had this taco concept that was down on Mass Street in Lawrence, and we were like, it's time to bring that to downtown Topeka. And so then construction on that started pretty much as soon as we were ready to bring on another restaurant.
Yeah. Have you been to Taco? It's so cool.
Yeah.
SDG did it too, right?
Yeah, they did most of it, and then SDG also did Iron Rail. And then there's one other SDG. Oh, SDG did some work for us at the old AT&T building downtown.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that was where we had a lot of those relationships.
Right, yeah.
I think the coolest part, and I was telling my wife this when we were there, the coolest part about Taco,
Mm-hmm.
the food's great. That's awesome. But you can find good food anywhere. It's just a unique experience.
I mean,
because
not anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But it's just a unique experience because of the levels.
Yeah,
it's
the levels is cool.
It's so
Yeah.
cool being able to eat, because the one time I went, we were on the 3rd floor. And we were right by a window. And so we're eating and we get to just overlook all of downtown Topeka. It was super cool.
Yeah. It was one of those unique challenges because, the Pennant was already a struggle with it being 2 floors because there wasn't a kitchen on each floor. Food had to be run up and down the stairs and all that.
Shoot, really?
Yeah. And so then in Taco, it was like,
Dang.
it was such a smaller footprint than the Pennant was. And so it was like, well, the only way to get enough seats in this place is to build up.
Right.
But then it's like, where do you put your kitchen and, how do you get food up and down and
So
all
is
that?
kitchen on the middle floor?
It is.
And there's an
That's
elevator?
smart.
It
Is there a private elevator? Because there's a normal elevator too.
They use the normal elevator for both. So,
Really?
Yeah.
So they're taking like a cart with food into the normal elevator.
Yeah, probably
That's
not
awesome.
carts. They usually do trays or something like
Right,
that.
right,
But,
yeah.
but yeah, no, when it comes to like getting dirty dishes and stuff up and down, yeah, definitely.
Wow.
So Cyrus Hotel, Pennant, Iron Rail, Taco, AIM Strategies owns all 4 of those.
Yeah, and then Brent Bowles was a partner on Iron Rail. So
That was what I was getting at. That
Yep.
was my question. I knew he was involved somehow. I didn't
Yep.
know how, though.
Yep.
So he was like an investor or a partner in that one.
yeah,
Cool.
Yeah, so and he was terrific to work with. So
Oh, that's awesome.
What was at the Cyrus before the Cyrus was built? Like what was in that space?
there was there was a firm. Oh my gosh. I can't remember the name at this point, but you'll kind of understand why things didn't work out for him, because they were in the business of researching and finding press clippings for a company, so you can monitor like your PR presence.
Okay.
So you can imagine maybe back in the day, if there are
Right.
newspapers across the country printing about your organization, you might want to know what stories are out
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would literally comb through the newspapers and they would clip them out and send them. And that was the business model.
Wow.
So as newspapers have gone digital,
Right, yeah.
they didn't really have much of a place anymore. So
Do you guys remember when someone was trying to do that with your like social media online presence? You would like sum you up with a score. I forget what the name of it was, but it would be like how many followers you had on all the different social media platforms. Like if there were news articles, like what your online presence was, and it would give you a score. And so people like, I think especially like on LinkedIn, trying to like do things to like increase their whatever. They had a name, I forget, and it was popular for like 2 years or something. I don't know. But
What do you think Topeka Insider score is?
oh, it's
Like a
pretty
4?
high. Yeah.
Oh, really high. Okay.
Pretty high. Yeah.
you guys are killing it.
Anyway, yeah. No, it's cool. I was just curious. What was there? So, but there was.
There's also a dance studio there.
But it like you guys rebuilt. It's not like you didn't just refurbish a building. You built a new building.
Yes and no, because with the Landmarks Commission, we had to maintain the storefront, and so what happened was there was the building on the left side, which was 912 South Kansas Avenue. It still remains today. That is all original on there. That's where the Cyrus ballrooms are. So if you go over there and you go into the event spaces, you're in the old building there. However, on the other side, what was attempted was to demolish the whole back part of it, but just leave the storefront and then attach the new building to the old storefront.
So is that like what the lobby and the restaurant is? That's all kind of the original shell of the storefront?
Well, yes and no again, because then what happened was the guys came in to do all the demolition, and as they started trying to brace up that brick facade and everything, as they were trying to demolish and split it from the back part, it just started crumbling to pieces, and it literally just fell apart. And so they ended up having to rebuild it almost exactly like how it was.
Yeah.
So it is all brand new brick, but it is like to the T what it used to be.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Like the kind of historic commission idea of like, you're not allowed to change this 100-year-old building and build this new thing.
It's got some positives and some negatives. I mean, right? Because there's a really cool and rich history that Topeka has that I think is special and needs to be, preserved. But then there's also practicality you kind of have to weigh in there too, because, let's say you're a small business owner that's got $50,000 in a dream, right? Well, you're probably not going to be able to look at downtown just because you're going to be in $50,000 of architectural fees and just navigating the compliance aspect of, developing in downtown. If you're going to be doing some significant construction of any sort, that, it's not going to happen. So it does kind of limit a lot what downtown can do, but there are some cool elements that need to go in. And so I guess that's why that committee exists. The only issue is the commission exists purely to maintain, like their job is basically to say no.
Right. Sure. Right.
But
who's bringing balance to that?
Yeah.
And I guess Cody Foster is.
Well, luckily there is some checks and there are some checks and balances there, because if the Landmarks Commission strikes it down, then you can go to City Council and appeal it, because while the commission is supposed to basically say no because their sole job is to protect it, the City Council can take into account many other factors and be like, oh, well, there's some huge economic development aspects of this that would benefit downtown or wherever. And so that kind of helped get us through some of those.
Yeah, I've just heard horror stories of New York City obviously is this very old historic place, with huge sprawling place, but things like the Historic Commission in New York City really bogging things down for this is the first parking structure in New York City. You can't tear it down. You're like, who cares? It's a parking structure. We don't need to save that.
Sure.
It's not worth saving. Build something nice instead of that,
Right.
So I imagine, yes, you don't want to just overwrite everything in the city. You want some sense of history and, heritage, but also if it's run down and it's kind of a piece of crap, why not build something nice, that the city can be proud of?
Yeah. And sometimes it's just not even financially viable to save some of it. I mean, you'd pay 3-4 times the amount to save it than you would to just build it new or even just replace it how it was.
Let me ask you this question, and you don't have to answer it. Yeah.
Ooh, spicy.
Well, we're here to ask the hard-hitting questions. But in all seriousness, you don't have to answer it. Gabe can edit it out.
How much money do you make every year?
No, I don't need to know your W-2. What I am curious about is if you can tell us how much money Cody has invested in each project. We're talking about, if you have $50,000 to invest in the Cyrus Hotel, that's not going to happen. You're going to pay that in architectural fees. Mm-hmm. But you're Cody has spent millions getting that place up. Is there certain...
I mean, I would just be comfortable telling you it's in the tens of millions. So there you go.
That's all we need to know.
For the Cyrus.
For the Cyrus?
Yeah.
That's wild.
He does have a heart of gold. Holy smokes.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that may, be as fortunate as Cody is. And there's a lot of people that be like, man, the beach sounds really nice just to be able to relax there the rest of my life or whatever. But he's a driven dude who's so good that we're thankful to have him.
No kidding. I mean, there's a reality that, these businesses are helpful to advisors excel, but not that much. I mean, there's no doubt. And the fact that you don't, everyone knows of Cody Foster, but the fact that you don't really know everything he's doing, and I'm sure there's lots of projects that are behind the curtains that you're no one will ever know. It just speaks to his heart. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it does.
It would be easy to, put your name on something, something Foster building, and you just never see him do that, which is super cool.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So what's it been like? You come out of college. That's a pretty cool 10-year experience. Not many people get to be part of something quite like that. Yeah. With an accounting finance degree, to step into something where you're getting to be a part of these huge city development projects that, the rest of the city is dang, this is crazy. We have this nice hotel now, or we have this nice, and you're I was part of that. What was it cool. What do you feel like you gained from the last 10 years of being in that?
Well, I think it was a path that I never even expected myself to take. When I was working at Hills, I thought, oh yeah, this is a nice corporate job and I could see myself doing this. But I would never go back now. I would never. It's too fun and too exciting. I don't know if I would say, if there was somebody young coming out of college or something like that, don't forget to look at those local business leaders, and they've all got, and it's not just Cody. There's tons more than him. You talk about, Jim Klossman or, Greg Schwert or, and so reach out to those people, because I'm sure that they have things that they need great talent for. And so don't immediately think that it's I have to go to Kansas City to find a good job or whatever.
Yeah.
You can do some really exciting things here right in Topeka. And And for me, it just opened so many doors because I never even saw that potential in myself. And that's credit to Seth because, I thought, I'm an accountant, I can do this. And then it was, oh, wait, no, I'm capable of so much more. And that's what happens when you just buy into people and invest in them. So
that's super cool.
I love that, man. I mean, I think it's so true. Like a lot of people, I think that's one of the dangers. Like you definitely want goals and you want like something to shoot for, but one of the challenges of, asking kids, in high school, like, what's your 10-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? It's like, you don't know enough to have a 5-year plan, just like put yourself out there in the world and see what happens.
Yep.
And like have some ideas of like, hey, I'm going to work hard. I'm going in a certain direction, but to like lock yourself in for life, like you don't know what opportunities might come up down the road, Yep. And I'm the same way. I'm doing something I never thought I'd be doing. It's amazing, so
yeah,
I think it's really cool.
It's kind of cool, like that Jim Carrey movie, Yes Man, where you start saying yes to things and then life gets pretty crazy, but find more ways to say yes to those things because you never know where they will lead you. So
what was the most exciting project to be a part of in your time there?
Oh man. Exciting. I don't know. I might have a different definition of exciting, but the Pennant was pretty cool just because that was the first one we got open. And it was, we had reached out to Dave and Buster's because we were looking for that kind of experience where it was like, we want to have arcade games and all these activities to go along with just some great food and things. But as soon as we reached out to them, they're like, do you have a population of 850,000 within 50 miles? And it was like, no, we don't. So we were like, I guess we got to make our own.
That's how it works with Dave and Buster's, huh?
Yeah. So they know what their market is.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we decided to make our own, and Cody and Seth were like, old vintage arcade machines like Super Mario and Galaga and all that. People would love it. So that was part of getting that project going, was literally scouring the web. Like, those things you never thought that was going to be part of your job was I need to go and try and find some old legitimate arcade machines to get it open. Because, we had to find those and then finding a person who can actually fix them. And then we were adding a bowling alley in there. And that was, a whole nother endeavor, learning how those work. And so, and then it was just a lot of fun. It was really crazy getting it open because we opened it on St. Patrick's Day. I don't know if you would have remembered that, but the St. Patrick's Day parade is always a big thing downtown. Yeah. And so we decided to open it on that day, which in hindsight probably wasn't the best idea because we had a completely green staff.
Oh, and gosh.
Sure. Man, that's a double entendre, but there you go. It was green staff that, were, big-eyed and like, okay, this is my first tables I'm taking, but we've got 500 people coming in the door right when it opens. But anyways,
surprise.
Yeah. So anyways, we got through it and we learned a ton, and it was really exciting getting to get our feet wet with the restaurants. And then by the time we had kind of got that place going, it was like, okay, we could do this again and it'll be a lot smoother the next time. So
we normally save this question towards the end, but I think you'll probably have a unique perspective on this. So I want to pick your brain. Being a Topeka native, you've seen a lot of businesses and been a part of a lot of businesses that have been started. What is something that Topeka you feel is missing?
Interesting.
And maybe not even, it can maybe be conceptual. It doesn't have to be a particular business unless you have one, but
Dave and Buster's.
But it sounds like there's no shop.
Checks that box.
It sounds like we're not getting a Dave and Buster's anytime soon.
Yeah.
You need to have more kids.
Yeah. I don't think I have that many more kids.
Oh man. Trying to think, what could we really use? I know one thing is my wife and I, we don't have any kids yet, but I know that tons of families, like whenever they have to take kids to youth sports, they're always going to Wichita or Kansas City for all these ball tournaments and things. And so it feels like, and even I hear from those people that it's like they go to these ball tournaments and then half the teams they play are from Topeka.
Right.
And it's like, if we just had the facility to facilitate those kinds of events, you're keeping a lot of families and a lot of dollars in Topeka that, are going elsewhere. So I think that's one thing, especially as of late, that, I was just talking to people that I feel like has been more and more recurring.
Yeah.
So
we had someone else give a similar answer last week. Joe.
Yep.
Who said, he's like, hey, like, you know, no holds bar. I had $1 billion. What would I add in Topeka? And he's like, I would add like a sports, you know, facility.
Yeah, like a youth sports complex. Yeah, it'd be huge. So
yeah,
I'm sure there's somebody working on that. So
I'm sure there is. Yeah, I'm sure the idea didn't start right here the first time. But
so we've only really talked about the downtown Topeka, but I guess as AIM strategies, were they involved in other projects around town that?
Yeah,
I mean, we know the big ones, you know, the Pennant, Iron Rail, those kind of things. But I guess are there any others?
There was just one more, which was in September of last year. So Cody and his partner Dave, they acquired Westridge Mall, and so what happened was it was like, well, Advisors isn't going to run a mall. They've got their industry they work in, so it was like, well, you know, Ames are the guys that can just kind of do everything. So then we ended up managing the mall too. So that was a whole nother experience. It was like, it was rather short notice, but it was like, okay.
So they just like handed it over to you, like, hey, we bought this mall.
Yeah, and at least from my perspective, it was like literally in a week's time. It was like I went from, we're managing a mall, or we're not managing a mall, to now we're managing a mall. And there's 20 something employees that come along with it, and all these tenants, and, you know, 100 lease agreements and all that from, you know, its history that you were suddenly having to sort through.
Hey,
it was
at least
pretty
there's
crazy.
100 lease agreements. That's more than I would have guessed with the mall.
Well, I mean, not current, but I mean, you had all this history that came with it. So anyways.
I guess talk a little bit on that. You probably know more than most about the plans for the mall. I mean, I've seen some renderings. I've heard talks. I don't really know what's true versus what's fluff. I guess what is their plan for that?
Well, I don't want to speak too much out of turn here in case things have changed in the last 2 months, but I know, as far as, you know, when I was still with them, that the idea is that Advisors would go in on the southwest side, where Burlington used to be, Burlington Coat Factory. Mm-hmm. You probably remember that was there. And then and that would kind of fill out that whole south side of the mall.
Gotcha.
And then basically consolidating the amount of tenant space down, probably removing a third of it, so there'd be about 2/3 left. And if you put all of the current tenants in that much space, it's pretty much occupied.
Yeah,
really. Wow.
And so that was really the plan. I just know that there were some hurdles with the anchor tenants there, whether it be Dillard's or JCPenney's and things, because, you know, their leases were written 30, 35 years ago to protect them and making sure that the place is still desirable for those stores to exist.
Sure.
So I don't know if they've been able to wade through that entirely yet, but that was just some of what they were going through when I.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess that kind of leads us into, you know, you've made a change. You're now at STG. Talk us through that change. I guess what brought you over there? Why are you there? And I guess, that change.
Yeah. So I guess I wasn't scared because, you know, from that history, it was like, hey, whatever industry or thing that gets thrown my way, I'm sure I can figure it out, or at least find some people that can maybe help me figure it out. And so when, you know, I touched base with Greg, he was like, you know, I love everything you guys were doing over there at AIM, and I'd love to have you part of the team. And so I went there, and, you know, it's been a lot of learning how, hey, this side of the business was, because on the developer side, you know, we were working with architects and engineers all the time, but, you know, I wasn't in that. And so now it's, okay, what's it like to run a service company? Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's just a changing of how, you know, that business mindset of, oh yeah, we're not talking hamburgers and ribs and things like that. Now we're talking billable hours and and you know, delivering on timelines for our clients. So, but SDG is a great firm. You know, it's been around here in Topeka for, darn 35, 40 years at this point. And Greg says he's going to, you know, be at it until he kicks the bucket. So he says he's not going anywhere. But yeah, it's an incredibly fortunate firm to be able to be part of so many projects that have shaped Topeka. I mean, from things like fixing up the building up on Menninger Hill and the Federal Home Loan Bank, to Advisors Excel's offices with their Gage campus and all of that, to even the things AIM did. You know, it's I still feel that connection to all these cool aspects that Topeka is developing. Mm-hmm. Just in a different way.
Wait. So they worked on Menninger?
So What is the building called? It's right across the street from Security Benefit.
Oh, it's on 6th and between Wanamaker, Fairlawn.
Yeah.
Okay. So not like the one on the hill.
No, that hasn't been worked on yet. I think that's just still up there. So
right.
There's something probably coming along for that.
Who owns that?
I don't know exactly who owns that right now. So, anyways,
but SDG worked on the one at the bottom of the hill.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because that one is like new and nice and really great. So they remodeled it. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Well, I mean, we designed it, and then it's now got some tenants, or I know of one that's about or trying to go in there at least. So, trying to design some space for that.
And hypothetically, SDG could be doing Menninger at the top of the hill.
Maybe. So,
all right.
To be determined.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, wouldn't be surprised.
That's awesome.
That is cool. You're doing a lot of the similar stuff, but just on the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, wow. So what does the future look like for you, man? Like you obviously came to SDG for more than just kind of a job. Like you've got to be thinking about your future and what does that look like?
Well, I will say work-life balance has been a little bit better since leaving AIM, just because restaurants and hotels never sleep. There's always something that happens Saturday night at 9 p.m. that it's like, oh crud, what do we need to get fixed here? But but that's been nice. But the main thing is Greg's a guy that loves giving back to the community, and you can probably see that just kind of fuels me to a degree where it's less about necessarily the paycheck or what kind of title I have, as in, hey, am I helping Topeka become a better place? And so I think SDG does that and definitely checks that box for me. But yeah, and then I've got other things too, like working still with the Downtown Topeka Foundation and my wife's henna business and other things that,
Yeah, your wife's henna business that you casually dropped has 100,000 followers on. I was like, what kind of business has that many followers in Topeka, Kansas? This is amazing.
Yeah, she's gone viral a few times for for her henna work. So
that's amazing.
She's great. I will always refer to her as my better half because she's beautiful and she's just got a completely different side of a brain than me. I'm the one that's, counting finance by the book process, all this. And then she's got this amazing creative mind to where people just stick out their hand and then she'll just design something like just completely on the fly, comes up with it on the spot. And then it just looks absolutely beautiful and people love it. So
that's really cool.
STG.
SDG, right?
SDG, architecture plus interiors.
Architectural plus interiors. So maybe just personal preference, your personal vote here. If you could pick out a dream client for SDG. I'm struggling. If you could pick out a dream client, who would you pick for you guys to do some work on? Like what's a building that needs it? Maybe has no intention of ever hiring you, but you're like, hey, we would.
So you're talking about a client or a property in Topeka?
Let's go property.
Well, it's funny you mention it, but really that Menninger Hill, I think, is probably it's something that has a whole lot of potential that we would love to be a part of. And there's been some whisperings, but we're trying to work on that. And it's something that I think could really transform Topeka from Wanamaker just kind of being that dead end once you get up there, especially with the movie theater closing and all that, to where now it can extend all the way up to around the river and all that. So
I mean, it's a cool property. My family and I actually just walked it this morning.
Yeah,
just walked past this morning. Which we don't do.
Were you
often.
walking in Cedar Crest?
We walked Governor's Mansion kind of up.
That is Cedar Crest. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So up the hill in the woods, kind of on the backside.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, and so and my kids had never seen they'd never been to the top of the trail, so we walked up and we're like, hey, look at that building. This is what it used to be, and it's a cool place. It's an iconic skyline too, the bell tower on top of the hill,
and it has so much history too.
Yeah.
I mean, from being one of the I guess most esteemed psychological institutions, like west of the Mississippi when it was built.
Menninger himself was such an iconic person. I think he was so influential in the psychology world, here in the States. So I mean, it's cool that was in Topeka.
Yeah, and it's something we should celebrate. And
I agree. Yeah.
What could that building be used for now? If you guys got a hold of it, did what you need to do to it?
I mean, really, the sky's the limit. Just because of the amount of property there, it's I mean, it could be any kind of multi-use development to where, you just imagine a whole district where of things and activities and facilities you could use. I think that's probably the direction it'll end up going.
I'm going to ask you a similar question just because you brought it up. I feel like you would be you'd be one to ask. So with the movie theater going out of business up there, what are we going to do with that building? What could be done? Just hypothetically, I mean, you've been involved in a lot of development projects. Is there something that you're like, dude, that would be great for this?
I never thought of that yet. I haven't gone up there too many times ever since it closed, but
it's a huge building, but I guess it's not going to be a movie theater.
Yeah. You need some kick-ass laser tag in town or something.
Yeah. Dave and Buster's.
Well, someone was trying to do it in the mall, right? With like assault rifle style.
Yeah,
like
they did a while back
or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, when it was such a suite in the mall can only be so big, and it's not like they can do the multi-level stuff that makes it really fun and dynamic. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can imagine it being some sort of place like that.
Yeah,
it's got the space for that and more.
Yeah.
It almost makes you think of like something like the Main Event. You've been in that case.
Yeah,
that would be sweet.
Yeah.
I feel like Topeka would really rally around something like the Main Event. Like that's kind of something that Topeka could really get behind. I mean, there's a lot of families with kids. I mean, like you said, youth sports. It's classic. Like youth sports teams go do stuff on the side.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
Hey, we're all going to play laser tag. So
yeah.
Back just thinking about your story, man. It kind of blows me away that. How old are you?
30.
You're 30 years old.
Yeah.
And for the last 10 years, you spent what I would consider in someone your field to be kind of a dream job. I don't know if that's how you feel. But.
Oh yeah, I feel extremely fortunate. I mean, it wasn't all just me. There's luck and other things that come along with it. But yeah.
I mean, it's opportunity plus. I mean, you worked really hard and you're good at your job. All those things. I'm not necessarily trying to pigeonhole you for like how you got the job or something like that. But just it's cool to me that you had 10 years of experience doing like what seems to be pretty high level stuff in the city of Topeka. Like, how many finance majors or accounting majors get to be a part of, building development projects in the city of Topeka that are iconic spots. It's not just like some random restaurant. It's the Pennant. It's not just some random hotel. It's the Cyrus, and it's funded by Cody Foster. It's not like some random thing, and so it just seems like you're kind of getting set up, like you have this 10 years of experience getting like even just your ability to talk with us about property development and like, oh, we could go multi-zone here. I'm like, I don't know many 30-year-olds who are like able to talk like that about the city where they live and potential projects and what our city needs more of, and on that level, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's just be involved in the community. If you're somebody that's, hanging around the house and it's like, well, there's nothing going on in Topeka, there's a ton going on. You just got to get out and talk to people, or in my instance, get lucky with a position like I did. But, if you go out there and put yourself out there, the doors will open, and there's so much going on in this town. And even if it's just events and festivals, like, things like the chocolate festival that even just happened a couple weeks ago, or the air show, like you can't say there's not much going on in Topeka when we got things like that going on.
No kidding.
And it's so cool.
But you just talk about it with people, right? Like it's hard for any one I guess team to get the word out to everybody about everything.
Sure.
You know, and I know a lot of people look to the GTP to kind of be that, but there's so many ways people interact with media, and it might be on their phone, or maybe they check in on WIBW or whatever, but some of the best thing is just talk with your neighbors or talk with your friends and be like, hey, did you know this is going on in town?
Right.
And
yeah.
You'll get that word out, and we can celebrate the things Topeka has, and you'll end up probably getting connected in some way or another, and you can get involved with them.
That's great. We kind of answer this question, and I'll just see if you have anything else you'd like to add to that. If not, we can just check mark the question and move on. But it seems like there's kind of two levels at which someone could be involved in making the city better. And you're kind of on both levels. On the higher level, or maybe the larger scale level, you have, people with vision and money and the skills to build new things and, put new businesses in and build new properties and things like that. At the lower level, you have people who are just like participating in the city and buying into it and, you know, helping things flourish in that kind of a way. What would you say to just kind of an average person in the city who wants their city to be better, but maybe, you know, hey, how do I help? You know, what would you say to somebody like that?
Yeah, I mean, number one is I think, like you just said, just attend those things and go to those local events, because, you know, without it, those people aren't going to be able to put it on year after year or make these things, you know, routine things Topeka is known for. But then it's beyond, I'd say beyond that, you know, it might sound crazy, but like, just call them up or send them an email. And if you've got like ideas or anything, I'm telling you, the best business people and collaborators will work with whatever opportunities they have. And so, you know, and Cody's a great instance of that. I don't know that there's a person that would walk through his door that he would turn away. Like he would be like, oh, what do you have to say? And, you know, these people will listen to you. And it's not like I sometimes say Topeka is the biggest small town there is.
Right.
Because it really, I feel like I forget that it's 130,000-ish people all the time because word gets around so quick in this town, and there's such a tight-knit community that it doesn't feel like that way sometimes. So yeah, you probably have seen it because you said you moved here in like
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I mean, once you start talking to one person, it's like, oh yeah, they're this person's cousin, or their uncle started this business or whatever. And then, you know, suddenly you start connecting all these dots and you kind of understand this fabric that Topeka has become. So yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. Well, I'll just say one more thing and then maybe we can go to
love it.
Our
rapid fire
questions. It's interesting, and I'm not trying to like hype you up, man. I'm not. But
hype him up, John. It's all right.
I think it's an interesting lesson that I think other people could learn from. You know, from just your story of like hearing like how you're making the decisions you're making. It's interesting to me. Like you have this pretty sick job for 10 years, and then I love the comment you made that you're like, hey, I'm ready for you're ready for a new challenge, which I think is not how a lot of people are thinking. That probably need to be like, hey, here's a new challenge you need to embrace, like get out of your comfort zone. But 2, you weren't afraid because you knew you had not just a good job, but you had the skills to do something in a new opportunity. And I think a lot of people mistake those 2 things. They think like, hey, a job is the security that I need, instead of the skills that I'm developing are the security to bring about whatever opportunity I want in the future.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're definitely right.
Where like, you know, so I think a lot of people get locked in where like, hey, maybe they didn't get some certain job they were hoping for, maybe out of college or something. And like, oh, my future's over. Well, no, not if you developed the skills to create opportunities and take advantage of opportunities, because at that point you can go anywhere and do anything and you're going to grow and you're going to have a great experience. And then new doors will continually open to you because of the skills you've developed. Like you said, like, I know that I can pull the right people in to help on some project or whatever. And I can, you know, do this and this. And so anyway, I just wanted to highlight that because I think that's a cool thing that not a lot of people understand, you know, for maybe people out there feeling like stuck, you know, in your job. You're like, hey, are you working on the skills to take advantage of opportunities in the future?
And I'm wondering, was it you and I who spoke? I don't know if it was you and I who spoke, but you mentioned several times how you got lucky. You know, I got lucky. I got this job, and was it you? I think
you brought this up. Times,
where you know, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, and you know, you were prepared. You know, you had the NBA. You were disciplined in your work, and you know, you clearly showed it was Seth who called you. Was it Seth? You know, there's your opportunity, but he didn't call you because you know you were lucky. Yeah, he called you because you were prepared and you were the man for the job, and the opportunity found you, and then you felt lucky. But I mean, you can prepare and just wait for your opportunity to come. But if you're not ready for it, then, you know, luck will never find you.
Yeah. I think what you're speaking to is a lot of what I think in Washburn, there was a terminology for it. It's called being an intrapreneur, which is you take that entrepreneurial mindset, but apply it within a company, essentially.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, don't always just paint yourself into a box saying, hey, I'm this role in this company and I'm, you know, just only supposed to do this. You know, I bet if you go to your boss and it's like, hey, I see an opportunity for us to go X or so Y or whatever. And then they'll often be like, hey, you know what? Go for it. See how far you can get with it. Or they may say it's a dumb idea, but worst they'll say is no, right? And But then that's when you expand those horizons and you develop those skill sets, and suddenly it's like, oh yeah, now I'm overseeing this whole, maybe additional department or something that ended up getting formed in the company because you saw that opportunity and decided to just take your shot on it.
Right.
So.
Because what boss doesn't want their company to be successful?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, hey, I have an idea for how our company can be more successful. No, we don't do that here. You know? You're like, sometimes they're like fear of change because you're like, you're afraid to like screw up the success you currently have. But like, if you're like, hey, there's a problem, I'd like to solve the problem. Who doesn't want that? You know?
Yeah.
So it's so good.
Absolutely.
Rapid fire?
Hit him some rapid fire.
All right,
let's do it. You're doing a home project. Lowe's, Menards, Home Depot. Where are you going?
It was Home Depot for the longest time, but for some reason I've started going to Lowe's recently. So
really? Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's me. I win that one.
Yeah, I think you do. I'm a big Menards guy. He's a big Home Depot guy.
That's all right.
Actually, he's a big everything but Menards guy.
It's kind of annoying though, the rebates and all that. Just tell me what I need to pay for it.
100%. 100%. That's one of many reasons.
One of many. Whatever.
One of at least three.
Yeah. All right. Go to local coffee shop in Topeka.
I'm not gonna be able to answer that because I'm not a coffee drinker at all.
That's fair.
But there are definitely some great local options. So whatever I just tell people is I say, don't go to Starbucks. Don't go. Just go to something that's local.
Yeah.
Cool. Go to date night spot.
Well, my wife and I do love the Pennant. We have gone there many times. Man, that's probably it. I mean, we end up going there more times than not.
Do you bowl at the Pennant, or are you just kind of a...
Yeah, usually we just dine there, and then it'll be, if we have extra time, it'll be, hey, let's play some arcades. And, and then I get way too competitive, and she doesn't like that necessarily, but it's just kind of hardwired into me.
It's a quiet ride home.
What's your favorite local restaurant that maybe people don't know of? Hidden gem, something that you like that maybe other people don't?
Okay, how about we say favorite non-AIM local restaurant?
Yeah.
Get you off the hook a little bit.
I would say probably Tuptim Thai.
Okay, let's go. I love Tuptim Thai.
It's definitely not a secret, but I mean, you have somebody from, if you have family or something traveling from out of town, take them to Tuptim Thai. And sometimes I bet they will say, I may come from big city like Chicago, and they'll be like, that is some damn good Thai food.
Yeah, absolutely.
we should be celebrating that because it is really, really good.
Yeah.
Do you golf?
I don't at all.
So you don't have a favorite golf course?
No.
Okay, that's fair too. I already asked you what Topeka is missing. What is something you would change about Topeka? This is not really a rapid fire question, but what are some faults Topeka has that you wish, were different?
I think we still struggle with a self-perception issue.
Yeah, totally.
Where, and it's come a long ways. I mean, I can remember what it was like when I was getting out of high school, and it seemed like every single kid was like, I'm getting out of Topeka as soon as I could.
Yeah.
And it's come a long way since then, but I still feel like there is still a significant portion that feels like, oh yeah, it's just Topeka, or, I wish I would be somewhere else, but this is where I am.
Right.
But if you just embrace it, I promise things will come your way, and you'll be, just get ingrained with this community, and it's hard not to fall in love with.
Cool.
It's true. How many potholes did you hit on the way here?
See, I'm not one of those people that count the potholes. I'm like, it's tough. I understand. We get hard winters here. It's hard to keep concrete looking fresh and new. So
that's probably the best answer we've gotten.
Spoken like a developer.
I mean, you pave that road in SoCal, and they get what.
Those roads are
sub-freezing temperatures once a year, if that, or a couple years. When it's nice and sunny, it's hard for things to crack it because it's not expanding and contracting.
That's true. That's true.
That is spoken like a developer.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in Topeka you're excited about we didn't ask you about?
Oh man, I think it's still for that next level for downtown to take. It's gone through a lot of development, but a lot of it has been on the shoulders of AIM and a couple others. I think it'll be huge once you start seeing some of the more established, we talk like a Dave & Buster's. Once those kind of companies start seeing, oh, there's an opportunity downtown, and once housing, like new market rate housing starts going in downtown, that's a signifier that this thing's really going to take off.
Wow,
Sure.
that's cool.
And so, it's tough to look at it from a perspective like, hey, it still may take 15 years to get there or whatnot,
Right,
but
yeah.
you just keep, you can only eat an elephant one bite at a time. So
There you
Yeah,
go.
absolutely. Cool. Well, where can people find you at? Are you on social media? I guess you're working for SDG.
yeah, so Short Design Group is where you'll find me if I'm not at home or doing a DIY project with my wife or something like that. So yeah, you can always email me. My contact information should be up on the website. And yeah, I'm always around Topeka. You'll see me at the events because I'll do what I preach, which is support local things and try and just help this place be better. So
Heck yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Don, thanks for being with us.
Yeah,
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
it.
yeah,
Man, this was
thank you
great.
for having me. You guys
Yeah.
are awesome. So
Cool.